Hello and welcome to a very special channel, Awake from the Slumber. A channel like no other, a channel that says it is as it is. A channel that equips you with biblical facts. My name is Robert Onsando. I would want us to navigate through the very first chapter of the Bible, and this in the book of Genesis. Genesis simply means the origin, the beginning of the genealogy. That's what Genesis means. And this book was written by Moses. And we all know who Moses was. So I want us to go through it verse by verse, and we'll complete the very last verse of chapter 1. Because many a times we always jump into chapter 2 verse 1, which we all know talks about after creation. After the 6th day, God rested on the 7th day. He blessed the 7th day. He set it apart. You know, we always know that. But I would want us to have a critical look at the at chapter 1, how God created the heavens and the earth and everything that is within. And I want to start off by, so I want to welcome you. Please bring your pen and paper so that you can be writing some of the things. I don't know everything. We're going to help one another, and we're also going to allow the Holy Spirit to guide us through. I know we have various versions of Bibles. Please just use it, and the Holy Spirit is going to bring all of them together so that we have the same understanding. Verse 1 says, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. Other versions say that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. So the earth is always one in singular, but the heavens is more than one. Simply because I want to bring to your attention that we have more than one heaven. And if you want to know that, I welcome you into the book of 2 Corinthians 12 verse 2, where it talks about the third heaven, where the only one who went there came out of there, and that was Jesus Christ who went there. Actually, Paul was writing that 14 years ago. There is somebody he knows who went there. He doesn't know whether it was in body or it was in spirit, but so that tells you that there is a third heaven. And if there is a third heaven, then definitely there is a second heaven. That's not our topic for today. So what I want to say is that in the beginning, when things began, this is not the very beginning because God was there. Because if God was there, then there must have been another beginning, which we don't know, and I don't want us to enter there. But the beginning of the creation of the heaven and earth and where we live, this is the beginning that we are talking about. And it was created, God created. By God creating, that means it is Him. God is Elohim. Elohim is a plural. Is plural of God. So that means the Godhead. It was one. The Godhead, there was more than one in that, in the creation. So, but what the Bible tells us that heaven and earth was created by God. That is what we need to know. So, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit moved upon the face of the waters. Three things I want us to underscore there. Number one, there was the earth. Because he says, and the earth was without form. So that means the earth was there, but it was without form. So when God was creating it, He made it have some form. And void and darkness. So darkness was there. So what moved the whole was darkness. So I want you to get 2 points. The earth was formless. God was bringing it into form. Number 2, it was void and darkness. So darkness existed. And this was upon the face of the deep. Then there was the Spirit of God, not God the Spirit. I want you to get that right as well. It was the Spirit of God that was hovering on the face of the waters. So there was waters. We also had waters. So these are some of the things I would want you to underscore and get to know what used to exist. Because He created it from some existing, because he was there, he used to be there. But when he was creating our home, humankind home, where we are today, he used what was there but was not in form. That is what the Bible says. I'm not adding anything from my own mind. So, verse 3 says, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. Why did he say let there be light? Because there was darkness. Darkness existed before light came. So if there was darkness, what God said was let there be light. What form of light, I don't know at this particular time, but what God said, let there be light, and there was light. And it was good. And God divided the light from darkness. So, because darkness existed, God divided the light from the darkness. And God called light day and darkness night. So that is the first time we are hearing of God dividing the day from, the day that was from darkness and light. So he divided that. And evening and morning was the first day. Look at this. He starts with evening, then he goes to morning. Why does he start with evening? Because darkness comes immediately evening. Evening is associated with darkness. So this is the beginning of darkness. And darkness, because it used to be there, it must be the start of everything. And then there was light. And that is the reason why we always start our day from evening. From night, not midnight, because the Bible is very clear. It was evening and it was morning, the beginning of darkness and the beginning of light. Where the light ends, the darkness begins. So we are talking about the end of light. We start with darkness, then we go to the next day. So, but the beginning, because he had already finished his creation for the very first day, so he said it was evening, the beginning of darkness, then the beginning of light. He called it first day. So when he called it first day, he did not call it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Those names never used to exist. As we go to the second day, I want us to underscore a few things here again. And let me read in verse 6. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters. And let the waters, and let it divide the waters from waters. So there was a mass of water. Remember, the Spirit of God was hovering, and it is over the waters. So there was water. And what God did on the second day, after creating the light, he also separated the waters that were below, under, and the waters above. So he created what we call a space, firmament, in between the waters. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. So these waters, he only separated the waters. The waters were below here, remained below, and the waters went up. And the ones that were up there, he called it heaven. Other Bibles call it sky. But my Bible, the King James Version, is calling it, and God called the firmament heaven. The firmament is when he separated. So up here, he called it heaven. So on the second day, before we go to the third day, most importantly is the waters existed. And what God did was just to give a command, and there was the separation of the waters, and then the space firmament was created in here, the space where we live in, where aeroplanes fly through, where the birds, go through. So God used to order and things used to happen. And he did that on the very second day. So there was water down here, and there was up there water, and there was space here which we call firmament or heaven. And evening and morning were the second day. So remember again, it starts from evening, then it goes to the beginning of the darkness, and then the beginning of light. Because darkness used to exist before the light. That is the reason why we start like that. I keep on emphasizing that. Because people have already changed this and they go to midnight. When people celebrate, like they were celebrating the Gregorian year, they wait until midnight. But the Bible is clear, it was evening, then it was morning. And we can also get the same one in the book of Leviticus 23 verse 32, where it talks about from evening to evening. Remember when Nehemiah said the gates should be closed from the beginning of the Sabbath to the end of the Sabbath. So it is all about evening to evening. I really wanted to emphasize that because there is a lot of confusion in the world. When does the Sabbath start? When does the day start? The day begins immediately when evening, when the sun goes down, or sunset. It is sunset to sunset. Let's go to the third day. And this is what the Bible records in verse 9. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. So what God did on the third day was to just say that let the waters, because there was waters, remember, waters above, waters below. So he ordered for the waters below to gather together and leave the dry land. So he called the dry land earth, and called the waters that gather together sea. That is on the third day. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass. He now went to the earth and he ordered, let the earth bring forth grass, herb, yielding seed, and the fruit, tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. So, the next thing was, now he commanded the earth, now, earth, bring forth grass, bring forth herb, bring forth fruit of each kind. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, herb, just as we have said, and everything that he did, and it was good. And evening and morning, that was the third day. I want you to look at the sequence of his creation, because he knew unless I separate the waters, then it will be hard for the grass to grow. He separated the waters from above, with went above heaven and the waters down here. Then he separated the waters that are down here, gathered them in one place. There was dry land, and on the dry land there was grass, there were herbs, there were fruits. He is preparing for human beings, because there are people who buy cows even without having grass. You should grow grass before you buy a cow. So that is the orderliness we are talking about in God's creation. And that was the third day. And God always would say it was good. It was perfect. He was excited with what he did. He was satisfied with his creation. Now he goes down to verse, after the third day. I'm going to dwell in the next day, that is the fourth day. I spend some time there because it is very, very important for all of us. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day and night. Remember, when he was starting his creation on day one, he said, let there be light. And there was light. Again, is repeating the same thing that he said, but this time he's saying, let there be lights with S. In the first verse, if you remember what he said, let there be light. Here he's saying, let there be lights, plural, in the firmament. Because he has already created the firmament. Firmament is up here in the skies. The firmament of heaven. To divide day from night. He still did that, but there he divided darkness from light, light from darkness. But now he's dividing day. This is the very first time he's talking about day from night. And let them be for signs, for seasons, for days, and for years. The lights that is going to create are going to serve a major purpose. There's a reason why he's going to create the lights now. Number one, it will be for signs. It will be for seasons, it will be for days, and it will be for years. God is establishing his own calendar. These are the ingredients that are going to form a calendar. Now, as he talks about the lights, he's going to expound more on the lights, and this is what he's saying. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens, to give light upon the earth. And it was so. So majorly the focus was the earth, because the lights that is gonna create are going to give light to the earth. So the subject matter is now the earth, not heaven. So whatever is going to create in heaven is going to bring light to the earth. That is where concentration will be. Now listen to this. And God made two great lights. Two great lights. The greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. Which lights are these? One, it is the sun that rules the day. Then the moon rules the night. You realize that the moment the sun shines, the moon's light fades away, is not seen. But the moon has its light shining at night when there is darkness. So the lesser light will be ruling the night, and the greater light, which is the sun, will be ruling the day. Now, he continues by saying that he made the stars also. It's not that he forgot, but the stars were also created. They were part of that, but not part of the lighting system. Because the lighting system, the light is brought by the sun and the moon. But the stars were also created. And they serve a purpose. They bring signs. You remember when Jesus was born in Bethlehem? What directed the shepherds were the stars that they saw. So everything has a reason and a purpose. So on the fourth day, God is establishing a system that will guide us for worship and for calendar, to know which time we are living in. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from darkness. And God saw it was good, and evening and morning were the fourth day. That is very important. That's what I wanted to talk about. Even if we don't continue the last ones, but that's very important, because this is when God was creating the calendar. He was establishing a calendar. And this calendar that he was establishing, people have manipulated it and have even changed everything. And we know very well in the book of Daniel 7:25 is written that he will think of changing times and laws. The one who speaks pompous words, who wants to see it in God's seat, and that's the devil using his agents. Has he done that? Very well, he has done it. But that is only intention, because he cannot change what God has created. Everything remains intact. But in the minds of people, he has tried to change, the perception, the calendar, and all these things, so that people miss the appointments of God. God has appointed days. When you're given an appointment to go and see a doctor, or you are attending an interview, a job interview, there are few ingredients that you must look at. One is you must look at the date. Be sure of the date, the year, and be sure of the time. Because if you miss on either of them, you will miss the doctor, because he'll be having other patients and you'll not be served. You'll miss your interview and you'll miss the job, because the other people are going to be interviewed as well. So a calendar is very, very important. And this was done at the midst of the week, because the week has 7 days. It was done at the midst of the week. And that is the reason why at the midst of everything, the moon is supposed to be full, round, because that is when it was created. The sun was created. The stars were created. And they were created for the purpose of showing the sign, showing the season, the day, and the year. When we talk about the sign, I've already shared about what happened when Jesus was born in Bethlehem. What they saw were the stars, and the stars directed them. So that is a sign. But the seasons, the moon determines the season. If you read the book of Psalms 104:19, it's clear. The moon determines the seasons. And when we talk about seasons, God created 4 seasons for us. And the 4 seasons are divided 3 months each. So the very first season is the spring season. The spring is always in between March, April. And that is the beginning of the biblical year. If you read the book of Exodus 12, verse 1 and 2. Because then God said to Moses and Aaron, tell the Israelites, this shall be the beginning of months to you. The beginning of months for the year. And this is the month of Abib, if you read Exodus 13:4. So Abib is, is a Hebrew word that was created, but the Bible, God knew that this was the first month of the year. 1 year has 12 months. We can also get that from the Bible. So, the moon determines the season. The first season is spring, that begins in March, April, according to the Gregorian calendar that was changed. This is a Roman calendar. Then from there we come to the next season, which is summer. This season is when it's warming up. The world is warming up. Then summer is hot, is warm, is warmest. This is the warmest time. It's hot in some places. Then from summer we go to fall or autumn. And this is when we have the Feast of Tabernacles. Then we end up, we finalize with winter. Winter is when it's snowing at some places. It's the coldest season. So these are the seasons, and they're determined by the moon. Maybe in future we're going to talk about how the moon determines the seasons. But we also have what he created determining a day, because he talks about 4 days. Because a day has 24 hours. And in the book of John 11:9, it says, don't you know that if one walks during the day, stumbleth not, because the day has 12 hours. And that is the light. There is light, so you cannot stumble. You'll only stumble when it's dark, there is darkness. So John 11:9 talks about 12 hours and 12 hours. So he's separating darkness, day and night. And what does that is the sun. When the sun starts shining, it's light time. And when it goes down, it becomes dark. So we start with darkness, then we go with the light. That's how the counting goes. And so that's why the Bible is talking about the sun determines the day as well as the year. Because as you continue, how many days? 364 days, others say 365 days in a year. And at times I tend to think that when Joshua pleaded and the sun stood still, and that was for the whole day in, I think, should be in Joshua 10, 12 and 13, maybe that may have altered from the 364 days to 365, I don't know. But what we know that they all determine. So on in the fourth day, God created the ingredients that bring about a calendar. And the calendar is important because it gives you days and times when God is supposed to be worshipped, when God has an appointment with us, as the book of Leviticus says, 23. These are my appointed feasts, and they shall be done at the appointed times. So God will be available. God is available all the time, but he also has special days and occasions for us. And all these things are not for him, they are for us actually. The Sabbath was not made for, it was made for us. So that is what he did on the fourth day, and that's why I said I'm going to dwell on that. Because I don't have more time to continue sharing more about this. My time is up. I think I'll have to continue from there. I want to believe that my brothers and sisters, you've benefited from something there. God created the world in an orderly manner. And He started with what was already there, because even before this where we live was created, God was there. Jesus was there. And the sequence in which they were created, it is like a series, one building over the other. There was no collision. That is how orderly God is. Thank you for listening to me. I want to believe that you are going to tune in and we are going to continue with this series throughout the year. God bless you.